we've got a huge opportunity to build a new U.S. drone industry. And that brings some challenges. That can bring some confusion of like, okay, who's doing what? And it also creates the opportunity to think differently, to say, okay, if we're going to get a do-over and build our own U.S. industry, how do we do that with specialization and collaboration so that we can build affordable systems for farmers and not have everyone trying to recreate another closed monopoly?
Welcome to Ag Bioscience, the #1 podcast in the world for innovation in food, animal health, plant science, ag tech, and agriculture.
Welcome to Ag Bioscience. I'm Christy Wright, President and CEO of AgriNovus Indiana, and I'm here with Eric Pfeiffer. Hi, Eric.
Hello, Christy.
You had the chance to talk with Mariah Scott today, CEO of American Autonomy. What was that like?
It's a really interesting conversation about drone adoption, and she threw some numbers out there that were kind of like blow me away numbers. Like I didn't realize that we were growing that fast, but we do have some regulatory things that we have to look out for and see if it's really kind of holding us back a little bit now with a ban on Chinese drones. Actually, bigger than that, a ban on all foreign-made drones. So we've got some work to do here in the U.S. to kind of catch up and get things moving. But Mariah and I discussed that, and did it really set us back, and how far back? She answers that question a little bit later on in the show.
Oh, good. Sounds like you had a great conversation and covered the whole gamut, from business to regulatory and all the in between.
Absolutely. And they're really just trying to help their dealers. They're trying to help farmers, and they're taking advice from farmers about how can we make this usable for you. And, an innovation isn't an innovation unless it's, useful for farmers. And that's what they're doing. They're making things useful for farmers.
Excellent. Well, we hope you enjoy this episode.
Mariah, thank you for joining us. We are looking forward to diving in on digital transformation and American Autonomy, Inc. as an ag tech disruptor. But let's start high level. Talk about the work that your team does and how you're serving farmers through ag tech.
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here. At American Autonomy, we build software for drone manufacturers that is designed for farmers. So we've got a U.S. developed operating platform that helps a manufacturer deliver an affordable drone, and that makes it easy for the farmer to fly the drone, to see their data, and to share that with other people and with the systems that they use to manage their fields. That looks like 3 components. There's software that you use for flying the drone and for managing your spraying and spreading applications. There's software for pre-flight and post-flight operations. And then there's our branded AcreConnect software that you use for application maps and for sharing that data to other farm management software, or for doing billing or FAA reporting if you're a custom applicator.
We're going to talk about AcreConnect in just a moment, but I do just want to talk about drones in general. And for farmers, I think that, there was a time that it was just kind of a novelty item. I've got a drone, but they didn't really know what to do with it. They didn't really know what to do with the data. We've come a long way since then, right?
Oh my gosh, we've come a long way since then. Yes. Drones are used for both imagery, so camera drones for all kinds of mapping and analysis and crop monitoring and, pest identification and all kinds of stuff. But they're also increasingly used for spraying. Last year, about 16 million acres were treated with drones, which is, that number has been growing 60% every year for the last 3 years. So we're just seeing a lot of farmers realize that a spray drone is an affordable piece of tech that they can use for a lot of precision treating, and also for spreading and kind of cover cropping. And it's just kind of a great utilitarian sort of thing.
Well, let's talk about AcreConnect. It was the first platform, and it was designed to help farmers manage that unpredictable portion of their annual operation, the spray season. I guess what gaps in the market did your team identify that really set the tone for the launch of that platform? And how does it create a differentiated experience for the grower?
We launched AcreConnect in March of 2024. So we had identified that operators are really struggling with the data. You mentioned kind of like, what do I do with this data? And that's because most drones today are closed systems. So it's really hard to get the data out and to do anything with it. And so people were struggling to do things like create an application map, show me where I flew and what was the coverage. So we put together AcreConnect to try to make it easy to get those application maps, and then to make it easier to manage all the paperwork involved with a drone. So you might have FAA reporting or pesticide reporting, or, just providing a simple map of where I flew and what the work was that got done. So we put the software together to make that easier for operators. And today, AcreConnect is still the only software that supports application maps for DJI, XAG, and EA Vision drones, and that has direct API integrations to John Deere Ops Center and to Climate Field View. So those things might seem normal for a ground sprayer, but for drones, it's pretty unique and makes the drone a lot more useful.
Mariah, you talked about, kind of what's happening with drones, the amount of acres sprayed and the pace at which it's being used for that. But do you see that the market will continue to grow at that pace? How do you see the future changing here for drones?
Great question. In December of last year, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, kind of scrambled the board. So they banned all foreign-made drones and a lot of foreign-made drone components. And we had been anticipating that there would be a ban of Chinese drones, but they actually made it much broader than that. And it's all about national security, which we totally support. For the US drone industry, though, that means we've got a massive kind of do-over. It's a reset, because those Chinese drones really controlled about 90% of the market. So we've got a huge opportunity to build a new US drone industry. And that brings some challenges. That can bring some confusion of like, okay, who's doing what? And it also creates the opportunity to think differently, to say, okay, if we're going to get a do-over and build our own US industry, how do we do that with specialization and collaboration so that we can build affordable systems for farmers and not have everyone trying to recreate another closed monopoly? So big time of opportunity. And probably, some chaos. But in that, we see a lot of opportunity for adoption and for real benefit.
Yeah, with this kind of regulatory shift, I mean, there's got to be a huge impact here. Did it set us back? Did it set us back a year, a couple years? I mean, how long before we kind of get back on this train and we can start moving toward that same pace that we are at right now?
That's like the $1 million question. We see a lot of new entrants coming into the market, and that's good. What we also see is, a lot of different approaches. So our role in that is trying to be a standard operating platform. So in the same way that you think about your computer, and if you buy a different brand of computer, Windows is going to work on all of it, and it's going to be easy to use, and it's going to work with your other applications. The operating software we're building at American Autonomy is the same kind of platform that says, let's have an operating software that makes it easy to fly the drone, easy to connect to the applications that you already use, and then manufacturers can specialize on the aircraft, on the airframe, on the payload, on the gallons and the tank capacity and the sprayer system and all the things that are super important to having a high quality aircraft. So we really see the opportunity to build that collaborative ecosystem. And I think your question about, well, does this set us back or does this move us forward, kind of depends on how does the industry respond? If everyone decides we have to all build the same wheel, then we're going to go slower and it's going to be expensive. If we can get the industry kind of rallying around, and some folks are building motors and some folks are building airframes and some people are building software, I think we can move really quickly. And the US industry has been pretty resilient in those kind of models.
I was going to ask, in your opinion, what does success look like in this environment for the industry and for your company?
I think success for us in the short term looks like getting the first platforms out in the market. So we have a partner, Exity Drones, and we're excited about working with them. They're bringing American automotive quality to the hardware, and we're bringing the American-built software to the drone platform. So that's going to be our first drone in the market through Exity, and we're really excited about that. I think we'll see more drones coming into the market, and that's going to start that snowball effect, I think, for success. We're also excited about some of the functionality that we're bringing. We think that's going to really move drones forward. We've built a platform that brings everything onto one device. So flying the drone, being able to see the data, being able to share that data, having it be on a map. Some of those innovations that we haven't seen in drones, I think, are going to make it really easy for farmers to adopt and to use the software and to use the drones.
AI, automation, sensing technologies, all sorts of things, innovations that can go into drones. We're going to touch on those next when we return on Ag Bioscience. The podcast is presented by Indiana Farm Bureau.
From berries to dairies, from crop advisors to data analyzers, Indiana Farm Bureau is at the forefront of the top issues impacting Indiana agriculture. No matter your role in the ag industry, Indiana Farm Bureau membership means you'll always have a champion and an advisor. And because so much of your time is focused on your own enterprise, it's also good to know Indiana Farm Bureau is always working to fight for the future of agriculture. We come together to advocate for rural viability, the protection of property rights, competitive tax policies, and against burdensome regulations. Whether our members need a door opened, an impact in public policy, or an ally to strengthen their communities, Indiana Farm Bureau is there. We are the unified voice for all agriculture. To learn more about the benefits of Indiana Farm Bureau membership, go to infb.org.
Welcome back to Ag Bioscience. I'm Eric Pfeiffer from Hoosier Ag Today, and I'm with Mariah Scott, American Autonomy, Inc. And Mariah, I want to talk about farmer feedback. I want to talk about how your team leverages farmer relationships to refine and improve your products and to look ahead at future evolutions. What role do farmers play in advancing your technologies?
We have a customer advisory board, so we call it CAB, and it's made up of farmers and drone business owners from across the country. And we use them pretty extensively to test new features, to validate designs, to give us feedback about what's missing, what they need, and make sure that what we're building is impactful for agriculture. So we also have a field testing team who is literally out in the field testing all the software. They're based out of Iowa.
And they just get all the new toys, right? They get the new toys to play with and just kind of make sure that they're all good.
They do. They get the new toys. I can tell you that doing some flight testing in Iowa in the winter was very challenging. We have some hilarious pictures of our pilot brought his duck blind out in the field, and he's inside that trying to fly the drone and test the software. Those aren't normal operating conditions, but yeah.
Well, it's always fun to have new toys to play around with.
Absolutely.
Mariah, what innovations do you see playing the biggest role in drone imagery and spraying in the future? I mean, I touched on it before. We've got AI, automation, sensing technologies, regulatory advancements. How might they reshape both farm operations and the broader ag tech landscape?
Well, I'll give you two kind of examples. One that's real basic with AI. We're using AI a lot now with the software team to help us prototype faster and help us move faster. AI is able to put together prototypes that we can get in front of farmers, in front of our customer advisory board to say, how would this be? Does this solve the problem? So that's helping us innovate a lot faster. The thing I'm maybe most excited about, just thinking about AI, is the potential for voice AI to change the way we interact with the machine. So if you think about it, you're standing out there at the field, and if you could say to the drone, hey, check the weather, read this label, tell me if it's safe to apply now, and launch the drone and fly the field. that completely changes the way we interact with the machine. Today, if you want to do that, you have to interact with a bunch of screens and click on buttons and move things around to make all that happen. But if you're standing in a field in the middle of a sunny day, it might be easier to just talk to the drone instead.
That sounds incredible, like a big time saver for farmers. Especially when, they've, we got those big fingers. We're trying to, hit everything on our tiny little iPhones and everything else. This sounds like it might be a big time saver.
I think it saves time. It saves money. It helps you know when you're on label and it's safe to apply. And, everybody'd probably rather talk than just be on a screen, right?
Absolutely. 2025 was a big year for you and your team. Can you talk about some of the moves that enabled your team to grow and scale in new ways that drove the business forward?
Yeah, I think for us, it was really all about focus. So when we saw what was happening with the shift in the market, we decided to shift the whole team to software and really lean into expanding our software platform from drone operators to manufacturers, building on what we learned with AcreConnect and building this operating software to help manufacturers really take advantage of the moment and what we're seeing with the market shift.
So much success for tech adoption comes with high quality integrations, and your products are on really solid ground with good partners in that regard. We talk a lot about partnerships on this podcast. Can you speak to the importance of collaboration and how your team is approaching finding the right partners to fit the platform?
Yes, partnerships are really critical. I mentioned before the opportunity to create a more collaborative approach and that it's expensive and it's slow when everyone tries to build the same wheel. So we took that approach with AcreConnect and we've extended that into the operating software as well. And we've been fortunate to look for and then to be able to partner with some of the leading farm management tools. I mentioned John Deere Operations Center, Climate Field View, but also business management tools like QuickBooks, and then major drone brands. We looked at who are the major drone brands that people are using, DJI, XAG, EA Vision, and said, okay, let's partner with them. We want to make it possible for farmers to use the applications and the tools that they have and not have to learn a different thing for everything they want to do. So building a platform that makes it easy to share data, to see data, and to use it with the applications you already have, that was really a key point for us.
Now, Mariah, I want to talk about you a little bit because your background isn't necessarily traditional ag professional, but it is really fascinating. And, you and I, we share this in common. When I started, I didn't have much of a background in agriculture. I think the closest I had ever really gotten to livestock or a farm, I emceed a couple of Cass County 4-H Fair Queen contests. That was it. But your background, far more impressive than that. You were president of Verizon Robotics. You had senior roles at WebMD and Intel. Talk about how you got here. What drew you into the industry?
Well, most of my career has been in enterprise software. And the last 10 years, I've been working in drones on the software side of drones, mostly in commercial markets, energy and utilities, construction, telecom. And I saw ag as an opportunity to take what I had learned in those other markets and bring it over to ag. At a time where there was just huge need for affordable technology to help us improve the way we care for the land. So that really lit me up. I'm from rural Indiana, so I could really identify with that opportunity and the need.
What's your experience been like so far in this ag bioscience industry?
I still identify with the need. There is a huge need for affordable technology that's easy to use. I think a lot of the ag tech has been kind of products chasing a need, not necessarily really focused on what problem are we solving? Are we helping you save time? Are we helping you save money? Can we quantify that? Are we actually making the work easier? So we've tried to really focus our products in that area. And I think maybe more than some of the other markets I have worked in, that need is just really important in ag, focusing on that ROI. Like, it's got to be affordable. It's got to have a return.
And Mariah, on this podcast, we talk a lot about bringing up the next generation of talent. How would you apply this learning as you consider the recruitment of young talent and workforce into an industry looking for data scientists, engineers, and more?
Well, I live on the West Coast now, and we complain a lot about big cities and affordability. And so I would say that, there is tremendous opportunity for technical talent in ag, and you can still afford to buy a house in a lot of those communities. So
that's kind of nice.
It's true.
That's kind of nice, having a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Mariah, what's ahead for American Autonomy in 2026? What has you most excited?
Well, what has me most excited? Immediately, like coming right around the corner, we're launching a new integration for AcreConnect with EA Vision, and I'm really excited about that. It's going to allow automatic log file syncing for application maps and for FAA reports. And if there are any drone operators interested in that, you can find out more at AcreConnect.io. That's our website. And on the operating software, we are really excited to launch with Exity drones and showcase this American-made software with an American-made drone. I think that's going to be really exciting for the market, and working with other manufacturers to get that operating software out there. And folks who are interested can learn more about that at American-Autonomy.com.
Mariah, we appreciate your time here on Ag Bioscience. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we thank you for joining us on another edition of Ag Bioscience. On behalf of the entire AgriNovus team, we hope to see you again next week here on the podcast. I'm Eric Pfeiffer from Hoosier Ag Today. Until next time, be safe and be well.
Ag Bioscience is a podcast by AgriNovus Indiana, brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau. Produced by Kayla Chittister and Fabian Rodriguez. Photography and design by Kaylee Verstay. Video by Darren Cooper and 1898 Creative. If you like today's episode, subscribe, rate, listen, and review. Get all episodes of Ag Bioscience online at agrinovusindiana.com.